It finally happened. The Pentagon press corps walked out. At 4 o'clock sharp on Wednesday, decades of history and the people who wrote it left the world's most powerful building.
The only news outlet allowed inside of the Pentagon to cover the DoD is OAN, One American News, which is pretty right-leaning, to say the least.
It was moving day at the Pentagon today, but it wasn't a happy one for reporters. Reporters, dozens of them, turned in their access badges and moved out of the Pentagon.
I think this is the America people need right now. People that stand on business. I brought you news about the new rules that Pitt Hegseth wanted the press to sign. In other words, to sell away the First Amendment. And a lot of news outlets, including Fox News, they say, we ain't signing this. And I tell you, they were standing on business, they did. Because yes, as of the day I brought you that, the news, it's only one media that had signed, which is the far right, whatever, ON or something like that. It's the only one that had signed yes. And others walked away yesterday. They did. They're like, we ain't, even Fox News. You can't take this as a joke anymore. Because if Fox News don't want to be controlled either, then who wants to be controlled? Hey, yo. Welcome back to the channel. How are you all doing? I think this should be some good news for you to hear, that there are people that still have a backbone, that somehow the mainstream media and people that are reporting on Pentagon issues on your own, military, that you pay taxes for. Yeah. Because these people be doing a lot of shady things, and the public is always supposed to know what's going on, because as people be saying, oh, we have enemies, trying to sell you propaganda. Well, there are people that are having a backbone. They're like, we ain't signing. And as a result, their badges were collected and they walked away majestically with dignity. With dignity. And I want us to look at those videos. We'll come back and talk about it. Do me a favor, like the video. Don't forget to share and subscribe to the channel. I'll be back with more.
It was moving day at the Pentagon today, but it wasn't a happy one for reporters. Reporters, dozens of them, turned in their access badges and moved out of the Pentagon rather than agree to new restrictions on how they work imposed by Defense Secretary Pitt Hegseth. The Pentagon wanted them to sign off on new rules that would subject them to being thrown out of the building just for reporting on things that the Defense Secretary had not approved previously. Journalists from outlets like the Associated Press and the New York Times refused to let their reporters sign the new agreements. Even some outlets that appeal to conservative viewers like Fox News Channel and Newsmax said they would not agree to the new rules. The journalists say they will continue to report on the U.S. military, but it isn't clear how much their lack of access will hinder them.
It finally happened. The Pentagon press corps walked out. At 4 o'clock sharp on Wednesday, decades of history and the people who wrote it left the world's most powerful building. Dozens of Pentagon reporters turned in their badges and carried their boxes, chairs, and notebooks out of the building rather than sign away their right to report. Nearly every major outlet, The Atlantic, Reuters, The Washington Post, CNN, CBS, ABC, even Fox News, refused to accept Defense Secretary Pitt Hegseth's new media rules. The rules require journalists to promise not to seek or publish any information the Pentagon has not pre-approved. Hegseth called it common sense. Trump called the press disruptive to world peace. The journalists call it what it is: censorship. To agree to not solicit information is to agree to not be journalists, said The Atlantic's Accusations, and sorry if I mispronounced her last name. By 4 p.m., about 50 reporters walked out together, leaving behind their nameplates, maps, and decades of memory, rather than sign a loyalty pledge to silence. Some took to social media. Today, I'll hand in my badge, wrote USNI news reporter Heather Mangillo. The reporting will continue. This wasn't about politics. It was about power and those willing to question it. In a time when truth itself feels under siege, that image of reporters walking out reminds us of something vital. Democracy doesn't die in the darkness. It walks out carrying boxes and keeps reporting anyhow. Do not let this Trump administration, these fascists, silence us. Keep quiet or keep loud. Keep talking. Keep posting. Keep spreading this word out that we will not let this fascist regime silence us.
So starting tomorrow, the only news outlet allowed inside of the Pentagon to cover the DoD is OAN, One American News, which is pretty right-leaning, to say the least. The DoD, or Secretary Hegseth, put out this new list of requirements for the press, and every organization said, dude, that's ridiculous. Newsmax said, get out of here. We're not doing that. Washington Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Axios, Associated Press, everybody except OAN. Now, what these restrictions were, and the reason they're being pushed back on so strongly, is the DoD just kind of rattled off some stuff that doesn't exist. The most important being that they would view any non-authorized material that is reported on as a criminal act. Like, every single piece of information coming through DoD has to be classified or unclassified, doesn't matter, has to be cleared through the DoD press office before a reporter can even talk about it, which is, of course, not exactly how we do, the freedom of speech, freedom of press here in the United States. Now, in Secretary Hegseth's words, he put out a statement saying, this is the new credentialing process for dummies. Press will no longer roam free. Press must wear visible badges, and credentialed press no longer are permitted to solicit criminal acts. Now, the Pentagon Press Association put out a statement in response to this, said, let's be clear about the facts. Pentagon reporters have always worn badges and continue to do so to this day. Pentagon reporters have always been restricted to unclassified spaces only. The idea that reporters have been prowling in offices where they are not allowed is simply preposterous. They said every political administration going back to the 1950s, including the first Trump administration, has allowed this same level of access. Now, in terms of what this means going forward, NPR put out a statement saying, quote, with no reporters able to ask questions, it seems the Pentagon leadership will continue to rely on slick social media posts, carefully orchestrated short videos, and interviews with partisan commentators and podcasters. Now, what's interesting here is you might say, well, they just can't be there, but clearly there's going to be opportunities to engage with the Pentagon and ask questions during these pressing times, right? Wrong. They're not doing press conferences at all. Like, they're not making themselves available. The Military Reporters and Editors Association put out a statement saying, quote, Secretary Hegseth has not briefed Pentagon reporters in nearly 4 months, and Press Secretary Kingsley Wilson has not conducted a briefing in 2 months. The Defense Department has avoided questions from the press, all while U.S. troops are operating around the globe. The Pentagon has conducted legally questionable military strikes that have people in international waters, and the administration has deployed troops to American cities. The lack of access to this Pentagon is unprecedented. Like, we've seen nothing like this at all. And I want to be clear, this is not the case with other departments inside the United States right now. There is a ton of access inside of the White House, inside of the State Department, inside of DOJ. All of these others are doing the same, if not more, access to the press. DOD, it's on lockdown. And again, starting tomorrow, the only outlet you're going to hear from, OAN.
Kudos to the media outlets for standing up for our democracy and freedom of the press. In a world where we are seeing so many institutions cave to the intimidation by the federal government and the Trump administration, there were no major media networks who agreed to Pete Hegseth's demand for capitulation. Hegseth demanded that media outlets agree to not publish any material about the Defense Department, even if it were unclassified, unless it was authorized by the department. Seriously. He wanted basically to turn media outlets into government propagandists. He set a deadline of last night for members of the press to sign to agree to be vessels of Trump's propaganda or risk handing over their press badges. No one signed it, thankfully, because it's an assault on freedom of the press, something that our military, by the way, has fought to protect for over 200 years. That freedom is enshrined in our Constitution, by the way. America, we don't want a bunch of authoritarian newspapers only touting our government's position on everything, like we are living in some communist China or the Soviet Union. So, bravo to the press corps for not caving. We must all not cave right now. Choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong. Stand, not with fear, but with honor.
Well, breaking news. Ignore the smoke machine. Well, Pete Hegseth, the Fox News host, Secretary of Defense, has officially confiscated every single press badge at the Pentagon. Why is this such a big deal? First Amendment is under assault, as it's already been for the past however long. 8 months, 9 months of this administration. So they have confiscated all the badges of the press after pretty much every major media site besides one, including Fox News, refused to sign a document stating that anything that is recorded or reported on at the Pentagon has to be approved by Pete Hegseth. They all refused to sign it and threw a tantrum. So now there is no press at the Pentagon for the first time, I think, in American history. So welcome to the Fourth Reich.
What Secretary Hegseth said is just a lie. He painted this portrait of sort of reporters randomly roaming through the halls of the Pentagon without credentials, bursting into classified meetings and forcing their way onto, SEAL Team 6 helicopters the idea that reporters are just wandering around and trying to find state secrets by busting in and interrupting things, reporters at the Pentagon who work there for many years, they have badges, they know the rules, no one goes into classified areas. Just the portrayal of it is based on a lie. And, look, we've heard far too many lies, and it's really disappointing. It's important for, whatever you think of reporters, it is important that you have people asking questions, and you have people, I think there are many forms of patriotism, and telling the truth is one of them.
So there's another thing to add to the attacks on free speech column on your constitutional crisis spreadsheets. Yesterday, the Pentagon press corps, pretty much all of them, including Fox News, refused to sign Pete Hegseth's dumb pledge that they would follow his absolutely insane rules. And today, they were given the final choice, and they all walked out. Every single news organization refused to sign that pledge, except for One America News. OAN is like Fox News' little brother who's jealous of all the attention that Fox News gets, so he tries to be twice as annoying. They are way hardcore far right. They are insanely MAGA, insanely culty. They don't care. They'll sign whatever loyalty pledges they need to. And now they are basically the sole reporters out of the Pentagon. And this was a statement from the rest of the Pentagon Press Association. Today, the Defense Department confiscated the badges of the Pentagon reporters from virtually every major media organization in America. It did this because reporters would not sign on to a new policy over its implicit threat of criminalizing national security reporting and exposing those who sign it to potential prosecution. The Pentagon Press Association's members are still committed to reporting on the U.S. military, but make no mistake, today, October 15th, 2025, is a dark day for press freedom that raises concerns about a weakening U.S. commitment to transparency in government governance, to public accountability at the Pentagon, and to free speech for all. Washington Post reporter Tara Kopp shared this today. Today, the Pentagon Press Corps handed over our badges and walked out in unison in defense of the First Amendment. It's an unprecedented attack on the public's right to know and the end of one of the most professional press relationships in D.C. And there's video of them all walking out and picture they all took. Here's another picture. Nearly all members of the Pentagon Press Corps seen leaving the Pentagon together earlier today after turning in their press badges. And of course, all the MAGA lunatics are applauding this and saying that this is a great thing because all the Democrats are gone. The Democrats aren't going to leak our secrets anymore, which is hilarious because the only people leaking things to the Democrats is Pete Hegseth when he's on Signal chats. When he's not leaking information to his wife and brother, that is. Anyway, this is a massive attack on free speech. This is insane. There is going to be no transparency coming from the Pentagon anymore. And we already know that Trump wants to use liberal cities as training grounds for the military. We already know because he's doing it. We already know he's going to be sending in the National Guard and potentially other branches of the military to cities. And we know that Pete Hegseth wants to basically bring back hazing and bullying and make recruiters feel scared. He wants to bring abuse back to the military because he's a maniac. And those are just the things we know because they're saying and doing it right in front of us. But now we will have no access, no knowledge of the things that they're doing behind the scenes. And yes, I'm not naive. I know the military hides a lot of shit, a lot of confident shit that goes in, but like, we're not going to know anything. It's just crazy. It's just another crazy escalation in this fascist nightmare. Another massive violation of the Constitution. And the people in charge who should be doing something about it are all loyalists to Donald Trump. Like, they are all just following in lockstep, goose step, you could say, behind him, doing whatever it is he wants. Freedom of the press is just shrinking. And meanwhile, while that's going on, apparently we're now giving $40 billion to Argentina. Trump and Vought are firing even more federal workers. Apparently there's going to be a CIA invasion of Venezuela. And the Supreme Court today is considering overruling certain portions of the Voting Rights Act to redraw maps, which would disenfranchise Black voters. There is a lot of shit happening. It is constant. It is relentless as fuck. These people are just ruthless. But we have to remain vigilant and loud. And this weekend is the No Kings protest. If any of you are going, please stay safe, have a plan, go with people. Just stay peaceful and have your voice heard, because everything is messed up. And if they're going to do this to us, the least we can do is go down fast.
I don't think you realize how big of a deal it is that right-wing news outlets are siding with the left-wing news outlets to give up their press passes because Pete Hegseth's new Pentagon press policy is the literal definition of censorship. Let me explain. There's a lot of restrictions that come with this policy. So if the press signs it, they are no longer allowed to release any information that is not authorized by the government first, even if it's unclassified information. They're also not allowed to walk around the Pentagon anymore, and previous accessible areas are now off limits and require an escort. And of course, Pete Hegseth goes onto Twitter and tries to give the fast facts of the credentials for dummies by saying that the press is no longer allowed to roam free, that they have to wear badges to show that they're press, and that credentialed press officials are no longer allowed to solicit criminal acts. In perfect Trump cabinet fashion, these are all lies. First off, they've never been allowed to roam free around the Pentagon. There are classified areas and classified workspaces that they do not have access to, and they've never had access to. Second, they wear badges. They've been wearing badges for decades. That's how they get in the building. That's how they get their clearance. Third, any information you provide at the press briefing is and should be available to the public. If you don't want it available to the public, don't bring it to the press briefing. This is the most recent unofficial list of the news outlets that are agreeing or disagreeing with this policy. You'll notice that there's only one so far that is agreed, and on the disagreed side, there's Newsmax and the Washington Times, next to Reuters, the Associated Press, and the Guardian. This is censorship. Government-approved news reporting is what people have accused China and North Korea of doing for decades. And now we're here. Despite what Pete Hegseth may say about this being an attempt to protect the military and their information, we clearly know what this is and what the Trump administration is trying to do.
Nearly every news outlet opposes this new Pentagon policy. Even Fox News, where Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth worked as a host until he joined the administration. Reporters have to agree not to use leaked information, even if it's unclassified. If not, they have to hand in their press badges and exit the Pentagon. Despite all the opposition, Hegseth defends this policy.
It's common sense stuff, Mr. President. We're trying to make sure national security is respected.
Outlets on the left and right oppose it, as well as CNN, NPR, and yes, the Washington Post. By the Pentagon's Tuesday deadline, only one outlet publicly said they were signing on, One American News. And for more, follow the Washington Post.
The propaganda outlet Newsmax is about to get kicked out of the Pentagon because they refused to sign a loyalty oath to Pete Hegseth and the Department of Defense. Yes, Newsmax, the propaganda outlet that was created for the explicit purpose of boosting Donald Trump and the MAGA agenda. They, along with 100 much more credible journalistic institutions, are about to be purged from our Pentagon. Because here's a reminder, it is not Pete Hegseth's Pentagon. It is not Donald Trump's Pentagon. It is the Pentagon of the United States Department of Defense that our tax dollars pay for and our members of Congress authorize to act. The department that takes our taxpayer dollars and transforms them into state violence. We have a right and a duty to know what's happening in that building. Now, the reason that even Newsmax, along with NPR, Washington Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, are all about to get kicked out of the Pentagon is because they refuse to sign a pact with Pete Hegseth that says that they will no longer solicit any information from anyone in the Pentagon who is not officially authorized by the administration to speak on the record. And in a time when the Trump administration is trying to deploy not just National Guard, but active duty troops in American cities to engage in law enforcement actions against American people, this is a critical time for transparency and for whistleblowers. Just think about how crazy of a deal the Trump administration has to be laying out that even Newsmax, that even they are willing to say, okay, we'll no longer go to the Pentagon. What's happening right now is allies of the fascist regime are learning the lesson that fascists, once they achieve power, they turn against their friends and allies and their enablers. We've seen this happen to Elon Musk. We've seen it happen to John Bolton. Now it's even happening to Newsmax and other propaganda outlets that have been fiercely loyal to Donald Trump and his regime. The First Amendment, our Bill of Rights in the Constitution, guarantees the right to a free press. Journalists having access to information about our government so that they can inform us is a critical aspect of democracy. Now, I'm certainly not telling you that you should go subscribe to Newsmax. You should go to npr.org and check out the opinion page, because their Pentagon press reporter wrote about how, despite working in there for well over a decade, he is not willing to sign this loyalty pledge. Support local, independent, nonprofit media. There are many reasons why the Trump administration is trying to squash the press. So make sure that you reward the press outlets that are doing the right thing.
Code red, patriots. Anyone who did not see that we are going towards or in a possible dictatorship, authoritative government, they are trying to make news organizations follow rules in order to cover the government and to cover the Pentagon. Thankfully, they have all agreed and united together not to follow this. But the fact that this is even a thing, the fact that we're even dealing with this is a problem. Wake up. Help us. Come on. Ex-MAGA. If you were on the fence and you think you might be, you're like, I don't know. Do I still believe? No, you don't. Now's the time. Jump ship. Fuck you, MAGA. Y'all, they are trying to take your rights away. They're trying to say we don't have a free press. If we don't have a pre-fest, we all fucked. So please, my Republican brothers and sisters that are not MAGA, that are on the fence, help your MAGA friends and family understand the seriousness of the situation. And as always, love you and fuck Donald Trump.
Hi, just a country bumpkin here with an 11th grade education, and I'm not for certain, but kind of certain this is what the start of a dictatorship looks like, when you tell the press that even unclassified documents have to have approval or you lose your right to the Pentagon. And then now all of a sudden social media influencers that use AI generated content have White House press passes. People that get paid by their content and use fake content have press passes. But all the major news media outlets don't. I'm going to be in a library because nobody ever goes there, so I'm going to get some green coffee.
That right there is standing on business, and I think it's so good. Just like some airports refuse to play Christine Norm's videos spreading propaganda. If you have people that are strong, that really don't care about nothing, and they're like, we have Budges to lose. But we have even more to lose if we sell our rights away. Imagine if these people had to sell this away. This is literally, saying to Trump that everybody that watches our news is saying yes to this, which is absolutely false. People don't want to sell their First Right Amendment. They don't want to do that. And that's the very reason as to why these news outlets, they were like, we ain't selling this. Why isn't this concerning to MAGAs? You know, if you've always had peace, you may not know what it feels like to not have it. And a lot of MAGAs are so comfortable because the rest of the world has been destabilized by the US. And they were helpless. How is it gonna feel when you feel helpless? Oh, by the way, I'm not excited about this. Some people be like, you know, don't be talking about this as if you're excited. Who told you I'm excited? Who told you I'm excited about this? Don't y'all know that, you know, US has a way of entangling itself in other foreign country relationships and happenings? And that sometimes some of our, you know, big-headed people in here literally copy from other dictators from the rest of the world. Do you think that is exciting? To me, it ain't. And then besides that, we have good people in America that don't deserve this. But I'm like, these people are really ignoring this. In my country, we have a proverb that says, Owe bango, botamuwemukira, ozokukabukedde. That if you sleep with someone that has that condition that raises a part of their back and it be like this, I don't know if you've ever seen those people, even when they wear a shirt, there's that thing that is raised behind there, right? That if you sleep with those people in bed, if you're not careful, by the time you wake up to cover yourself, it will be morning. Because they'll be pulling that blanket and it will be covering their thing. So if you don't tell them, hey, we sleep in this bed together, I share this blanket with you too, and I need to cover myself. That's exactly what is happening in the US. A lot of MAGAs have been just quiet. He's doing us good. One black sister said, we see you fighting for the second one. Wait until when he comes for the first one. He did. He did. And the news has already shown you the way they stood on business, actually including some of the news outlets that a lot of MAGAs listen to. What does that tell you? Does that show you that it is a sign of peace in that country? It's so crazy, again, that the rest of the world have experienced the wrath of the US. Americans had never. Now it's in the house. It is in the house. And hopefully the action of the media will wake people up and make them stand on business. You know, I've been having a lot of questions. I'm like, what is the Congress doing? They are not seeing that the rights of people are being taken away, like, oh Lord. But yes, they did indeed walk away majestically without their badges, therefore no more entering into the Pentagon. So I don't know how you guys are going to be able to know the news in there. I feel like that was a tactic to keep you away from knowing what's going on, what's happening. And just in case something comes, you'll be caught unaware. As far as, you know, I am concerned, I have not heard so many news of people wanting to attack the US. So just in case you hear them saying and feeding you propaganda of these people want to attack us, we need to just know it's because they started it. They started it. And they have money for war, but they don't have money for people to eat. Just saying. Let me know what you think in the comment section. That's what is out there right now. Now you know. I don't know how long it's going to take. for these people to bend their knees. I don't know. Hopefully they don't. Hopefully they don't. And hopefully the American people see this and pick a leaf, especially MAGAs, because the rest of the others, they've really been speaking. See you guys later. I love you. Stay safe. And may God watch over you, protect you, and provide for you. If you want to visit the continent, you are absolutely welcome. See you later.